So far we talked about positioning, hook and story, and brain dump. Now let's actually break down specifically building the outline. Then we'll create the product and come up with the marketing plan for it. So when it comes to the outline, the first consideration is steps or pillars. Now each module can be done in a logical step-by-step fashion, or think of a module as a mini product that may or may not have synergy with other modules. So just so we're very much aware, we're on the same page, is we basically take the information that we brain dumped, we put it into what I call buckets. We transform these buckets into modules. A bucket and a module are pretty interchangeable in terms of the terminology here. And now each module can be a step-by-step focus. So Operation Physical Products is pretty much step-by-step. We start with, hey, the basics, getting your accounts set up to sell on Amazon, then finding the product to sell, and then once you find the product to sell, sourcing the product, and then once you source the product, then getting your listing on Amazon, and then launching the product, and then blah, 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 right? Very step-by-step. You will notice that in this particular training product E-class, it's not exactly step-by-step because it doesn't make sense to first do 111 problem and then next do interview problem and then next do publisher products. Sorry, not problems. First do 111 products, then do interview products and then publisher products. There's some of them that are relatable and have synergy with each other, but each module is a mini product in its own right. So that's another way that you can do this outline, and you could do an amalgamation of the two. It doesn't have to be perfect. There's a lot of creativity involved here on your own end, and there's a lot of specific things that you can consider. Now, what's very important is once you have your modules, so this is why I like to call buckets become modules, because then modules become hooks. Each module has its own hook. We turn the modules into marketing by creating sexy, powerful headlines. And hopefully each module can be translating it into a marketing angle or something palatable and juicy to a customer or even to somebody that you want to publish with. If you show them the outline in advance and say, listen, I'd like to publish this product under your company with you, and you have the outline ready, or at least some of the outline ready, you can get them very excited. And then here's the concept of intro, outro, bonus. Usually the first module is the intro model. And then the last module is the outro, obviously. But by intro model, let's get more specifically. I like to write the intro model last in my outline. So I create everything else first, and then from that I can pull out little pieces of information to tease them and get them excited in the introduction, the customer, right? I also like to set mindset stuff in here and some other stuff too, which we'll talk about. Basics, but are important to some people in the audience, but maybe not others. The outro usually becomes an advanced module, things that they can't immediately do today, but could do in tomorrow, right? And then bonuses, augmentation pieces, leftovers, deep dives, and so forth. More specifically, to break it down, it looks like this. With the intro, I like to hit them with a hard why, get them excited, make positive feedback loops, set expectations, handle mindset, create the momentum to get them to push through and implement. So hit them with a hard why. It's very hard to get somebody to do something if they don't have a reason why to do it. So I like to really make that why hard, to make them feel like this is so important to do that I have to do it. And then it becomes harder for them not to do it than to do that. I also like to get them excited. That's when we tease the modules and things that are going to be coming down the line. It's important that you know what a positive feedback loop is. So let me define that for you here really quickly. A positive feedback loop is basically where when they do something, they feel good about it, and so then they want to do it again. And then when they do it again, they feel even better about it than the first time. So then that makes them want to do it even more. It becomes very addictive that way. Each time they do it, they feel better than the time before, up and obviously until a point. But if we set that up right away, if they feel good about doing the small things in the first module, then they're going to feel better about doing the bigger things in the bigger modules, in the next modules. I absolutely always like to set expectations with the customer. Here's what could be possible. Here's what's likely. Here's what you can do to influence results. Mindset is a big part of that. If, again, there's baseline tech or baseline things that need to be covered that some audience members know but others might not know, that can be optional and skippable for those who already know it, we hit them in the introduction. The outro, I usually myself personally like the advanced stuff to be there because people aren't going to be in a situation. Like, I'll give you an example. When we do the Amazon stuff, we don't say, here's how to sell your Amazon business, because that's something that won't occur for maybe a year or longer down the road. So we stick that at the end of the course. We say, listen, if you work this stuff hard enough, one day it might happen where this comes up. and I want you to be aware of it in advance. So we sneak that in at the end. Intellectually stimulating stuff that might not exactly have direct initiative value or can be broken down step by step, I like to put that in the end as well. Reminding them and tying back into the things that we sit down in the introduction module to really put this stuff all together. That's very powerful. I like to leave them all feeling very hopeful, enthusiastic about the future. So it's usually what we put in the outro model. Bonuses are the sexiest stuff, just done deeper. So we can get very, very specific into one concept or one element, or spotlight it even further, or switch things around and not provide information in the bonuses, but provide other things that can augment the information. Also, sometimes I consider bonuses the stuff that people would love to have, but they will never buy on their own. And nobody else has bought it to them as a gift. Or anything else that I think is valuable that deserves its own kind of focus, apart and beyond just what was in the product. So here's what's fun. I'm going to give you a case study example of how we did this with Tube Method. Now, I did this on January 11th, 2013 is when I created this outline. From this outline, Zane was able to go and put the product in place by February. We were selling this thing in February, about a month later, maybe less than a month later. And this is a 6-figure product, right? And it retailed for $199 most of the time. That's the price that we sold it at, was $199. And I've gotten a lot better since then. So this is the other reason I showed this to you. Over 3 years later, my techniques have become much more refined. So back then I did it with Google Docs. These days I create the outlines within Evernote. And then at the end I might translate it into Google Docs for the publishing. But the reason I wanted to show you this is because it's very enlightening, an example of how we did all this stuff together. So I came up with the outline. I always recommend you, whether you're the publishee or the publisher, you come up with the outline, because very few people know how to do outlines correctly. Now you do, because you've learned my techniques. So take that upon yourself. Now in this case, when I'm working with somebody else, I let them create their content underneath my outline. So you can see introduction, why video is hot, why YouTube specifically is the hottest of the hot, what you can expect from this training, what to do as you go through this training. I would have done that better today, knowing what I know now about that introduction module. I usually like to call the first module, the intro module, I'll call it Inevitable Success module. Or pre-game module, right? Something like that. And I would get more specific these days than I did back then. But then the first real module we give them, and by the way, I like to give them 2 modules up front. The beginner module, or module 0, or the introduction module, or the inevitable success module, and then the actual first hard-hitting module, which in this case is ranking, YouTube, Google, and beyond. So within the first module, I want them to get a win right away to create that positive feedback loop. And so you notice here we start with the why. And that's a big part of what I teach in the outline. Now this is me giving this to somebody else to create. Why, fundamentals, and then specifics, and then strategies. Probably would have broke this down much more step by step looking back today than I did in 2013. But hey, man, you can't be perfect, right? So this is why it's always good to get going, get started, and then improve each time you do a newer product. And so I basically, if it's funny, I gave him hooks to create content around. So each one of these things became videos. So I had to make a video. I gave him the module title and then the video title. Why YouTube ranking is easier than traditional SEO stuff. And then he'd create a video on that. And then I said, hey, if there's anything supplemental that would pop up during the creation of the video, make notes and send it back to me, and then I'll tell you whether it makes sense to create more videos or other PDF type of reference material or not. Now, if you're doing it on yourself and not having guidance from an individual like me, then you can make notes. These are my video titles. These are what I'm going to create. And as I go to create them, if more stuff comes up that's obvious that I should be creating along the way, great. Then I'll circle back and hit that later after I create all these things. But notice how I'm making each one of these videos a title specifically, because that's important from a marketing perspective. Ranking fundamentals, the basic stuff, keyword title, earlier and after description, etc. How the name of your channel affects your ranking. So I want them to break down why that's important and what to do about it. Favorites, the backlink that nobody knows. That's a marketing video. You don't even know what that is until you watch the video, right? So he's creating these videos, and then I'm going to put them together in a members area for a customer to consume, go through, and get excited about. And that's what I did for each one of these. So Google Hangouts was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 videos if you just went through A through J, right? So you could see here, like if each one of these were their only videos and nothing else, module 1, the intro module, had 4 videos. Module 2 had 6. Module 3 had 10. Module 4 had 6. Module 5 had what's that, 7 or 6 or 5, something like that. And so on and so forth. So if the average thing here had about 6 modules or 7 videos, and there's 56 videos in this course, and it doesn't look like much, right? You can see how easy it is once you chunk it down. And then you can look at the YouTube bonuses. So one of the bonuses I made was YouTube channel optimization, because I felt like we couldn't easily fit that into any module, and I didn't feel like it standed alone as part of being its own module. So by making it a bonus, we could say this bonus is applicable to every single module, and that's powerful. And then one of these bonuses was just for sex appeal, something instantly the customer could glance at that I wanted to pull out from the course and make it exciting, which was the video editor. And then things that can augment the information, graphics, bumpers, royalty-free stuff, and then Q&A webinars to go along with the product when we originally launched it. And we ran those for a few months. We ended up swapping these out and putting in different bonuses down the line. But you can see here, this is a very good strategy. Churn the raw materials once you organize them into an outline where it's not just a sequential outline that you're following, but the outline has the title of each video or the title of each section of the chapter, so on and so forth. A very powerful strategy. These days I've made it even better, but you can see what it looked like back then of how we translated it from a brain dump when I asked Zane all those questions, took all that material, organized it into buckets. Buckets became modules. Modules became marketing angles. And then the important critical elements within those elements, that important stuff within those buckets, I just wrote the title of each and every video and then had him go and record it. Very powerful marketing and product creation strategy for you here that can be applicable to every product you create, especially higher ticket products. So there you go. That's how you can create a super duper powerful outline for your product.